This full moon in Taurus opens a gateway between tension and flow, a mystical rectangle weaving opposites into harmony. With Venus squaring Pluto and Mars opposing Uranus, desire meets illumination, and your quest for freedom takes center stage. Let's explore how this cosmic dance invites you to identify your desires and ground your magic. Hello, Karen here, Soul Symbols Astrology, and I'm here to do a quick reading on this full moon in Taurus, which is happening on the 5th of November at about 1:20 in the afternoon, GMT. So you'll have to adjust that for your time. One of the most beautiful things about this full moon is there is an aspect which is known as the mystical rectangle. So it's an aspect pattern formed of the alignment of two opposites and connected by sextiles and trines. So we're looking at the balancing of opposing forces, but also that opportunity for personal growth and harmony there. So the opposing forces we have is obviously the sun and the moon in Taurus and the sun in Scorpio. And the other opposing force are the nodes of the moon, the nodes of fate, with the north node in Pisces and the south node in Virgo. This is our points of tension, and they're marked here in the red. And these sextiles that are happening here, sextile to the sun and the south node, the moon and the north node, and then the trine between the sun and the north node, and the trine between the moon and the south node. These offer an ease and flows. So the nodes are Ketu and Rahu, the myth of the dragon, the serpent in the sky, and the cutting off of his head. So that north node can be about unsatiated desire and hunger, because obviously if the head's detached, you can't swallow. So Rahu is constantly hungry. It can be about increase for good or for bad, depending what that desire is or what the entanglement is there with your desire, the hunger. It can be a good or a bad thing. The south node, the body, the remaining body, Ketu, of the detached head, is about detachment. It's about our spiritual impulse, and it can be issues of escape, desires to escape things. The south node is that decrease for good or bad. We can, have a decrease in our spiritual impulse, which probably not very good. We can have a decrease in need or desire to escape, and that can be a good thing because it actually faces us up to reality there. So we got to acknowledge those tensions that are going on, and between the sun and the moon, it is an opposition. A full moon is always an opposition. So we're having Taurus, this place of stability. It's fixed spring, so it's a stability that we have here. The light is rising in Taurus. It's becoming fixed going into Gemini, but also it's ruled by Venus, and the moon is exalted here. The moon is very happy here. But the full moon is that illumination, the fullness of pregnancy, the fullness of something, and it belongs to the Libra lunation cycle. We started here in the late degrees of Libra with our new moon, I think on the 21st of October. So we've got to the full moon. So the intentions that we set there in Libra, the Venusian intentions for pleasure, for balance, for harmony, for justice even. That's a lot about justice is Libra. We now have this fullness. And Taurus is associated with the Hierophant Tarot card, which is about learning. So we are here to learn, and we will find out. It will be illumined what we've learned or what perhaps we haven't learned. But beautiful aspects here with all these trines and sextiles. So where there is tension, our desires, what we desire, what we're hungry for that North Node in Pisces. What we're trying to escape, or our spiritual impulses, that South Node in Virgo, which has a lot to do with tending our inner fire and devotion, Virgo, and analysing. So those tensions that are within them, if we look at them, we do have these beautiful aspects of the trines and the sextiles, which will allow us to either let go of desires that are harmful to us or have a more detached view of the material to be able to increase our inner life. This is a lovely full moon for us and full of potential with this mystical rectangle. And this full moon is ruled by Venus, which is also the triplicity, one of the triplicity rulers of both Earth, where Taurus is, and water, where Scorpio is. It is Venus, Mars, and the moon are the triplicity rulers of earth and water. So very important is Venus, that she's not aspected there in Libra to this full moon, but she's in her temple, so she is very strong here. We also need to take in account that we have this in Aquarius, we have Pluto, and in Gemini, both air signs, we have Uranus. So Uranus is that sudden breakthrough. It is unexpected change, now in retrograde, and in 2 days, I think 7th or 8th, will be ingressing into Taurus to finish off what was going on there over the past 7 years. Pluto, Lord of the Underworld, about power, about pulling things up from the unconscious, that life-death struggle. They're in Aquarius. They're in Trine. So we have that trine there from the two, and they have been for some time, and they will be again when Uranus returns to Gemini after its short retrograde into Taurus. I think that's April time. But we do have this at the time of the full moon. So we have this trine going on. But this is that quest for individuation, the quest for freedom, for liberation. It's that need to individuate, the need for revolution in our lives. So a push through death, rebirth, struggle can also be erotic freedom, liberation. And what is interesting is with Venus, she will go into Scorpio on the 7th, 2 days later, and immediately square with Pluto. So this can bring, I talked about erotic emancipation. Now, Venus can be very spicy in Scorpio. It can bring out the spice in our intimate sexual relationships. So this could be time for breakthrough there with Pluto and that square with Pluto. It's that wanting to unite, the power of love. We can think here of the primal instinctual sexual drives in our relationships, but also the renewal and that bringing together. So there could be beautiful breakthroughs on that side of life as Venus comes into this square with Pluto on the 7th of November, and she is the ruler of that full moon. So very important, travel into Scorpio, and she'll be there for some time. And she will, after the sun, she will be activating that grand water trine again, where ease and flow can come. But this looks like, for me, the healing, a depth healing in relationships, in our sexuality, in how we want to go forward with our intimate relationships. There's also, because we have that tension with the sun and the moon, that may become exposed over this full moon. It may be something that's come to fruition, that tension, plus the nodes of fate being that other part of the equation, again, can come into our sights over this full moon. That can be the fruit that we see, that tension. But this is not a time to hide. This is a time to know that those beautiful aspects of that mystical rectangle were there at the full moon. And now with Venus moving into square with Pluto, there can be a shift in power dynamics. There can be a healing of these things. They are difficult. They can be difficult. There can be obsession with this configuration of Pluto and Venus in Scorpio. Aquarius is air, so it's the mind, it's our thinking. So we can be struggling with this obsession with people, with jealousy and possessiveness. There can be a level of manipulation, and Pluto is to do with power. So again, these things may come to a head once Venus nips into Scorpio. But there is that beautiful grand trine later in the month when that ease and flow will come, where our feelings can be washed clean, where we can dissolve any ego feelings that we had, any egoic drives and urges. They can be dissolved and we can have that healing there. Venus can be very spicy here in Scorpio, and we might have this time of talking with our partners. Power dynamics sexually can be very spicy. So there's that opportunity to bring spice and interest into your intimate relationships here with Venus going into Scorpio. And they can be worked out throughout the next month while Venus transits across Scorpio. And the other thing that we have going on straight away at the full moon is Mars in Sagittarius opposing a retrograde Uranus in Gemini. There's that opposition as well going on. But what we have here with Mars and Uranus, as I said, is those pushes towards independence, freedom. So there may be that weighing off of our relationships, of our stability. There can be, with Uranus and Mars, rash decisions. There can be anger that suddenly erupts. So if we're being aware of what we need for that stability, where the tensions are in terms of our relationships or within our life generally, the moon is fortune, the flux and fall of fortune in our lives. So we may need to attend to these nodes of fate in terms of what we may need to let go with desires, particularly if they're possessive or obsessive or contain that jealousy. There may be things that we need to sort out within our intimate relationships, being Venus's temple, Taurus, to bring that stability. But also with the North Node, we may need to be more passionate. We may need to bring more passion and spice into those relationships. And that's all here for us as this full moon happens. And it will be apparent what needs letting go and what needs cultivating. And also, Mars here in Sagittarius is it's not all about relationship, it's also about the big picture Sagittarius. It is also, he's a centaur, so he's aware of his primal forces, but he's also got that higher mind, and it is about the big picture. So here with this Uranus-Mars opposition, there could be sudden breakthroughs with vision, inspiration. Uranus is in Gemini, ruled by Mercury, so it may be that facts and informations, communications come to us suddenly, unexpectedly, which either turn us in a new direction or help us within our overall picture of our purpose, of our visions, of the things that we're working on. And that can be our relationships, our families, our projects, our work, anywhere where you require visions to be creative out in the world, to bring something beautiful out in the world, create something beautiful. There can be this unexpected illumination of this vision. And also with the Uranus-Mars, Mars is a triplicity ruler of both water and earth. So important here. But in that opposition, we might have an absolute desire for more excitement, more thrills, very martial. So it could be that push through with finding your independence, finding the activities and the things that you need to do energetically out there in the world. There can be that breakthrough, that epiphany, and how you can find your independence in whatever way. It may mean letting go of things, making more space, more time to pursue those desires and those needs within you. But I think overall, We need to take heed of any tensions that are there between our purpose and our fortune, our environment, the sun and the moon, the fluctuations. If we are aware of those in terms of that Mars, because Mars rules the sun there in Scorpio and Venus will be there shortly. If we become aware of those, we can channel those energies. They are driving and sometimes manic energies, and they can lead to reckless behavior. If we're not aware of those and make space for those and channel them maturely. But overall, all that taken into consideration, it's very energetic, the sky at the moment. It has very beautiful and difficult aspects and very cathartic energies where we can release through that South Node, where we can pursue more spiritual things, where we can be really transformed. Those tensions, I always talk about creative tension, all creation, whether it's art in its purest form. This is a Venusian house, so we are talking about the arts, or it's any other urge to create, to push through. We have that tension there, which will allow that because it's surrounded in these beautiful sextiles and trines. So there's a lovely flow of energy between the sun, the moon, and the nodes. But the moon in Taurus, exalted there in Taurus, ruled by Venus, is looking for stability, for a kind of constancy, a balance. But it's interested in the luxurious, the beautiful. We can surround ourselves with those things, whether it's nature, our gardens, within our homes. This is a good time to have a look at where you need to bring more beauty to your environment, to bring that peace and stability. We can look at our food and our intake of food. And with the moon here, it's about our body. So we need to be looking at our bodies and how we're treating our bodies. Are we bringing it nutritional but luxury food? Are we denying ourselves those things, which is leading to frustrations? And again, with our body, our bodies in relationships. How are we viewing our bodies? Have we got good body image? These are things that are good questions to ask at this full moon. So some journal prompts that might be helpful looking at these tensions and this push for harmony and flow. Where is there tension between my own sense of independence and my desires and those of my partner or the relationships around me? Where do I need to let go? And where do I need to pursue my desires that will bring that balance within myself and within my relationship? They're good things to kind of reflect on in terms of your body, your relationships, your sense of luxury, your desires, and your spiritual work and creative projects. So have a look at all those areas I've spoken of, use those journal prompts and just reflect this full moon. Then you can have the rest of this waning process of the moon up until a doozy of a new moon in Scorpio, the late degrees of Scorpio. And I'll come back with a reading for that. Just have a look and you can release over this period between the full moon and the dark moon that will come later in the month. Well, I hope there was something in there that was helpful. Yeah, if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, share. If you require a reading, astrological or tarot, go and nip over to www.soulsymbols.co.uk. And I'll see you on the next one.